After running a catering truck for 16 years, owning a brick-and-mortar restaurant sounded like a dream come true for Fay Gerges, who moved from Egypt to California when she was 18. And what could be better than going into business with her niece, Brenda, who added management experience to the mix, and could match Fay's $60,000 investment. Bringing in Fay's son, and Brenda's cousin, Mark, as a server and cook, should have been the final ingredient to create a warm, family atmosphere for the diners. Unfortunately, opening Zayna Flaming Grill in Redondo Beach instead caused relentless bickering, which often flared into fiery family arguments.
When you're here for 5 hours?
Like you always do.
When you're here for 5 hours?
No, I'm not here for 5 hours. You are.
The owners blame each other for the restaurant's problems. Brenda feels her aunt is bossy and controlling, refusing to accept any help with even the simplest tasks.
If it's done, it needs to be off the grill.
Well, it still
So
needs
it
to
will
get
be
marked.
overdone.
It's not overdone.
It is.
It's not.
The conflict causes Brenda to step back, leading Fay to accuse her of laziness and disinterest.
Brenda doesn't seem to care anymore.
I'm gonna go sit down in my booth. I just want to sleep.
Gordon begins his visit by meeting with both owners, but not together. They each tell him about their excitement at opening the restaurant as a 50-50 partnership, though Fay is certain she's single-handedly running the business. Brenda sees things slightly differently, telling Gordon that her control-freak aunt treats her like an employee, not a partner. When Ramsay asks what happened, he hears two very different stories. Brenda says the restaurant is calmer and runs more smoothly, while Fay shares customer feedback that her niece's cooking is a disaster. They both admit that they would fire their co-owner if they could, and Brenda reveals that she's given herself a year to fix the business or leave. Gordon sits down for lunch, and server Amel tells Gordon that Fay definitely does more of the work in the restaurant, and has a massive temper. And Fay's son Mark is lazy, leaving the dirty work for others. Checking out the menu, Gordon immediately spots a typo on the cover, which was written by Mark. Apparently, a lot of customers also point out that dinning should be dining. Ramsay chooses a selection of dishes, and Amel takes his order to the kitchen, leaving him to check out the decor and furnishings.
For first impressions, the place is soulless. There. Oh. Jesus.
Once he's restacked the cushions, he's ready to eat. Fay is confident that Gordon will love her fresh food, and sends out the first dish, the meze sampler. The selection of 4 dips is flooded with oil, which he removes from the overly runny hummus with a teaspoon, while being constantly stared at by Mark. Amel passes the feedback to the kitchen, where Fay quickly points out she didn't plate the dips. So it's all Brenda's fault. As he waits for the next dish, Gordon observes the server is putting dirty plates in a container under a dining table instead of taking them to the dishwasher. Not a great view for customers. Next up are the fava beans, which look equally unappetizing.
That looks like the inside of a diaper. I mean, it's so bad.
He takes one mouthful to confirm that it tastes as dreadful as it looks and sends it back. This time, Fay has no one else to blame, but both owners are shocked that he isn't enjoying their food. Mark nervously serves the next dish, kibbeh rolls. He describes them to Ramsay as kind of fresh. The rolls are prepared a week in advance and frozen. Gordon sends him outside, twice, to read the banner on the front of the restaurant, which boasts fresh, flavorful food. Despite Gordon knowing from the taste that the rolls were frozen, Fay doesn't think it's a problem, because they are made with such good ingredients. The owners bicker as they prepare the next menu item together, the Zayna combo platter, which Brenda is convinced Chef Ramsay will enjoy. But the chicken is bland, Amel admits that it's frozen, and the meat is overcooked.
It's drier than Mark's personality.
It's time for Gordon to share his opinions, and they're not good. The atmosphere is flat, the decor is drab, and he's not happy that he sat opposite a bucket of dirty dishes. Fay tells him the servers have never done that before, but Amel is quick to correct her, explaining to Ramsay they always clear tables that way. Fay won't back down. Ramsay tells Fay the hummus was too runny and had too much oil drizzled across it. And he's surprised it was olive oil as it tasted cheap. For some reason, Mark thinks that's funny and laughs out loud. Chef Ramsay isn't amused.
How old are you?
26, sir.
I'd expect that if you're 16. Because right now, Mark is very far from funny.
That wiped the smirk off his face. Gordon tells the owners that all 3 meat products were too dry and asks whether they were frozen. He's told the meat is brought fresh and marinated before being frozen. Ah, it's fresh frozen. Fay tells Chef Ramsay they've only been preparing the food that way for 18 months. But Brenda disagrees, saying it's been that way since the business first opened. Fay explains that she has no one to help her prepare the food from fresh, as none of her family or staff put in any effort. She denies having given up as a chef, and tearfully admits she has nothing else in her life but the restaurant. Brenda is adamant that her aunt insists on doing everything herself and refuses their help. She won't even share the restaurant's recipes or show Brenda what to do. Emil agrees, saying she isn't allowed to help prep food either. Fay shares her concern that the waitress might get hurt in the kitchen, which is why she doesn't want her back there. Emil reveals to Gordon that she often has to clean up the restaurant when she arrives, and it hasn't been done the night before. Brenda supports her, confirming that Mark often leaves the cleaning for others. A furious Mark accuses Brenda of being the lazy one and storms out. As they are all now being honest, Emil tells Gordon that Fay yelled at her so much in front of customers that Brenda had to change her shifts. Gordon's had an eventful lunch. He leaves the family, who take the opportunity to have another argument. That evening, Ramsay is back to observe dinner service. The first customers he speaks to are unhappy with the runny, bland hummus he sampled himself at lunch. Gordon runs down the street and brings back some fresh hummus from a local supermarket, which diners agree is much better. The next complaints are about the dry, rubbery chicken, which Fay refuses to accept, telling Ramsay it's delicious. Another 2 dishes are returned as the beef is raw, and the kibbeh rolls are sent back because they are cold. Chef Ramsay has seen enough in the dining room and heads to the walk-in. There is so much pre-prepared food that it has become freezer burned. Buckets of meat are defrosting unevenly in warm water, to Chef Ramsay's disgust.
Freezing the food, it doesn't make it go bad. I really don't get what he's saying, 100%.
Fay continues to defend herself and tells him the customers love her food and her personality. She is clearly deeply in denial. Gordon admits to secretly serving her customers store-bought dips and reminds her she found them delicious. He tells her she doesn't realize how far she has slipped. She breaks down and tearfully tells Chef Ramsay she's hanging by a thread. Gordon is sympathetic and tells the crying woman he can sense her sadness.
I'm so sorry. I'm just overwhelmed.
No, please don't be overwhelmed.
Fay tells Gordon that the restaurant is all she has, and he responds he needs to see her with a changed attitude in the morning. Before he leaves, Ramsay tells Brenda the constant family falling outs are the problem. Brenda denies being in denial about the restaurant's standards and tells the chef she wants to fix the problems he has identified. Inside the restaurant, the team comes together to comfort each other. The next morning, Chef Ramsay holds a staff meeting. He brings up the huge amount of prepared food in the fridge and freezer, and Fay once again tells him no one helps her to cook. She says her niece was the first staff member to give up, which is greeted by silence from Brenda. Then it's Emil's turn, with Fay calling her out on bringing drama to the kitchen. She turns back to Brenda, saying she doesn't want to be at the restaurant. A furious argument erupts, as Brenda tells her aunt she copes perfectly well when working alone, and encourages Fay to take more time off. The chaotic meeting continues, with Fay telling the staff they should be arriving early for their shifts.
You have my time card, then you know I'm at least 10 to 20 minutes
You're never
early.
here 20, 30, 40, 1 hour earlier.
Emil raises her voice, telling her boss that she's offered to help over and over again. Fay disagrees, and a furious Emil drops the F-bomb twice, which enrages Fay further. Gordon's plan to clear the air isn't going well. Fay threatens that she will do nothing at all to prep for the next service. Gordon loves the idea and sends her home, putting Brenda and Mark behind the line. He tells them they're opening for lunch in 15 minutes. Chef Ramsay walks Fay to the car, where instead of driving away, she watches her family preparing for service on 2 hidden monitors. It's a bumpy start as they work out how to turn on the rice cooker. But customers start arriving, and the first orders quickly leave the kitchen. As she watches them prep the food, Fay can't help but criticize every step of the way. It appears she might be right though, as oily dishes are returned. The pressure begins to mount, and Mark and Emil butt heads. Mark loudly and repeatedly swears at the server, watched by the shocked customers. Brenda steps in to control the situation, calming Emil down and getting food out to the hungry diners. Chef Ramsay and Fay head back into the restaurant and reveal they were watching the whole service. Fay tells her niece she's proud of how she took charge, and Gordon tells the team they passed the test. It's time for Ramsay to take a look at the menu. He teaches the owners how to cook 2 new dishes using fresh fish and absolutely nothing fresh frozen. They learn to cook and plate them together. As they sample the food, Gordon reveals he spent the previous afternoon asking locals what they thought of Zayna's Flaming Grill, and 3/4 of the people he spoke to had never heard of the restaurant. So Ramsay has arranged a promotion on Redondo Pier, where the team hands out samples to entice new customers through their doors. The family is re-energized and excited about the relaunch, which will take place the next day. Overnight, Gordon's team moves in to give the dining room a much-needed makeover. In just 12 hours, the dated Mediterranean restaurant has been transformed into a contemporary, beachside hangout. The drab and dreary colors are gone, replaced by bright and vibrant walls. And the booth chairs have been removed to open up the space, adding another 12 valuable seats. Stools have been placed alongside the bar, and quirky pop art creates a unique modern atmosphere. He introduces the new menu to the entire team, who can't wait to sample each one of the dishes. Fay is delighted with the changes to her restaurant and looks forward to working with Brenda as a team. It's time to relaunch the restaurant. Chef Ramsay has set up a 2-chef system in the kitchen, so the owners are now working side by side. Customers flood in, and the owners both start cooking. Unfortunately, before long, Fay goes silent and is back to working solo. She refuses to answer servers' inquiries, and Gordon tells Brenda she needs to get Fay back on her side. With a little communication, the pair are back on track, and orders are flying out of the kitchen once again. The relaunch wasn't perfect, but overall, it was a success. Gordon tells Brenda she's a natural-born leader, and Fay is happy that her partner has started pulling her weight.
Chef Ramsay gave me my family back and my restaurant back.
Despite worries that Fay will return to her old ways, Gordon is more positive about the future of the business. Following Chef Ramsay's visit, Zayna was attracting new customers, but it didn't take long for Fay to slip up. Emil and another server both left the restaurant soon after Gordon left, but Brenda continues to work alongside her aunt as a partner in the kitchen. Gordon's visit to Zayna Flaming Grill was filmed in August 2013 and was shown as a double episode in May 2014. It achieved ratings of 6.5 and 6.7 out of 10, making these 2 of the least popular Kitchen Nightmares episodes ever. It's possible that being shown as a 2-parter actually made it less enjoyable for fans, who usually love an in-depth look at the most troubled restaurants. Many felt the additional time was wasted showing endless bickering and repetitive arguments between the owners and staff. They thought the staff meetings seemed to drag on, and there wasn't enough interesting content to fill the 2 episodes. And the fans were clear about who was to blame for the infighting. Despite her tears, owner Fay was labeled the problem. Viewers were quick to call her a narcissist and found her difficult to watch, let alone work with. Co-owner Brenda, on the other hand, was seen as kind and capable. Fans were concerned she would never be able to show her true abilities as a restaurant owner while she was working with her aunt. Even after the revamp, Fay didn't wear the new uniform that Brenda and the employees were wearing. As for the servers, viewers were pretty united in their dislike of Mark, particularly after his furious argument with Emil. He is often mentioned in lists of the worst ever waiters on the show. Emil split opinions slightly more, with some fans amazed that she had tolerated working for Fay for so long. Others found her outspokenness annoying and felt she should have kept her opinions to herself. When Gordon left the restaurant, we heard that 2 servers had left, but Brenda was continuing to step up in the kitchen. A diner who ate there regularly before Gordon's visit was surprised that he had chosen to visit Zayna's, stating that the food was fantastic, even if the service was a little slow. Reviews immediately after Ramsay's revamp continued to be pretty good. though losing both servers seems to have made the previous service issues even worse. And it seems the family business started to fall apart from there. In September 2015, just a year after the episode aired, Zayna Flaming Grill was sold. The new owner, Ray Younis, kept the branding and decor that Gordon had introduced, along with his own menu. Gordon's original menu had been altered slightly right after his visit, with an ingredient removed from a soup and a word removed from the description of the chicken kebab. We really hope that word wasn't fresh. And the original owners had reprinted a new menu soon after to include the changes. It looks like Mark may have been in charge once again. It's safe to say the new owners didn't just accept Gordon's menu. He fully embraced the Chef Ramsay link and used it widely across banners and adverts to promote the business when he took over. He also proudly showed off the original recipes Gordon had left behind for the restaurant chefs to follow. Under the new management, Zayna Flaming Grill went on to receive good ratings, with mainly positive reviews, and much praise for the very hands-on owner, Raid. Diners enjoyed the fresh and flavorful food, the warm atmosphere, and the attentive service. It appeared that everything was going great. It's safe to say that Brenda and Fay wouldn't be thrilled at the success of Zayna's during the following years, though. In June 2016, 9 months after the sale of the restaurant, Brenda filed a lawsuit against Ray Younis for breach of contract. Court documents show that Brenda and Fay were co-defendants, and named both Raid and his wife Sana as plaintiffs. While we don't have details of what the case involved, we can see that it dragged on over several years. In 2019, legal proceedings were temporarily stopped due to a bankruptcy, which was referenced repeatedly in documents for a full year. It appears that the plaintiffs called for the dismissal of the case in December 2020, though it continued into 2021. So, in light of the bankruptcy claims, what happened to the restaurant? Is Zayna Flaming Grill still open? In October 2022, the owners announced that Zayna Flaming Grill, along with another restaurant, Banana Leaf, had been unable to renew their lease and would be moving to a new location. A month later, they were apparently all settled in, while the original building was advertised for lease. The new venue was a little different. It appears that Zayna was now sharing a building with not one, but two other food providers, Banana Leaf Indian Restaurant and Natural World Market and Cafe, while still promoting themselves using Gordon's name. Despite announcing that their new food court-style restaurant was open, visitors reported that they were still partially closed on and off over the following weeks. Customers started questioning what was going on, as the online image of the business didn't match what was happening on the ground. At the same time, Zayna Flaming Grill was advertising new branches opening in downtown LA and Santa Monica. But those visitors who tried to visit were left very disappointed. There didn't appear to be a restaurant. Following a final post in August 2023, Zayna disappeared, closing its doors for good early in 2024. The building was taken over by Michael's Cafe, which is a non-profit offering a space for employees with disabilities to show off their skills. What happened to the fiery family behind the original Zayna Flaming Grill? According to a visitor to the restaurant in 2016, the owners returned to Egypt when they sold the restaurant. Brenda got married in 2016 and shares photos of her life with her husband and family. She appears to be happy and healthy, but we can't tell what she's doing for work. Hopefully, she owns her very own restaurant. Mark doesn't have much of an online presence, but he also appears to be surrounded by family and enjoying life. And what happened to big personality Fay? When she sold Zayna Flaming Grill in 2015, Fay decided it was time to retire, but it wasn't a very happy time for her. In a podcast interview featuring entrepreneurial women in 2021, Fay revealed that Brenda and Mark persuaded her to take part in Kitchen Nightmares, and that she had agreed not because they needed customers, but because they were hoping to build their business.
At the time, we were thinking to do a franchise for Zayna, and I thought I was in the top of my game.
No wonder she was so shocked by Gordon's negative comments. As well as being blindsided by Ramsay's criticism of her cooking, Fay received another huge shock around the time of his visit. Her husband of 30 years left her for a 30-year-old woman. That certainly makes her tearful admission to Gordon seem more poignant.
I honestly have nothing left if I lose here. This is it. This is my life.
Fay's strong faith and family helped her through that difficult time, and she has since focused on making herself healthy and happy. That has included lots of traveling, which she hadn't done since she arrived in California all those years ago. It's great to see that she's enjoying her retirement, and we send her our best wishes for the future.